You are not lazy, but you're probably overwhelmed, just like I was a few years ago as a mom of two. We look on social media every single day. So when you open up your phone and you see tons of picture-perfect organizing systems, color-coded everything, all matching jars and bins and lids, it can feel like that's the goal. And while I can still appreciate that kind of organizing, we sometimes just need a simple and functional approach to deal with our daily messes. Here are some mistakes I used to make and how avoiding these completely changed my home and my life. Cliché, I know, but true. Don't try to buy your way out of it. Sometimes we look at our homes and we think we have an organizing problem, but in a lot of cases I see, even in my program, it's usually more of a clutter problem than an organizing problem. So decluttering first and then looking at certain organizing systems, that's going to work a lot better than you throwing money at the issue and hoping it's going to magically turn your home into this picture-perfect, clutter-free space. I saw this in the Minimalist show on Netflix, where they mentioned how we're often trying to buy ourselves out of a difficult situation. And obviously sometimes that can help, but when it comes to clutter in our homes, it's usually the opposite. It's getting rid of stuff and maybe sometimes even getting some of your money back if you sell it. That's going to actually help you a lot more than adding more stuff into your home. So for example, we might think getting more storage bins and storage containers is going to make our home clutter-free and organized, but if we have too much stuff, it's going to be impossible to keep on top of it and to keep up with those organizing systems. One example they give in the show is the baby sleep items. I mean, newborns and babies are notorious for not sleeping well, and we're often made to feel like buying the next baby sleep item on Amazon is going to solve that issue and give us a good night's sleep, where in reality, it doesn't usually work like that. There might be some things that help, but for the most part, it's just about them, growing and learning how to sleep on their own. So it's the same with clutter. We might want to buy more organizing systems, but the most helpful thing we can do sometimes is to declutter first. And if you need help with that, I have a free decluttering checklist for you that's going to give you not only a checklist of items you can go through and ideas of what areas to tackle, but it's also going to give you a lot of practical tips and exactly how I started the mindset behind really efficient decluttering too. I will link that in the description box. Over 30,000 people have downloaded it already. So if you want to get yours, then you can do that for free. Overly organizing can also be a mistake a lot of us do. And the reason why I say this is because it can be really impractical. This kind of micro-organizing is when we look at categories like, for example, toys or kitchen items, and we try to micro-organize into these little tiny categories. And I love a good organized drawer as much as the next person, but sometimes overly separating things into too many categories can make it harder for us to stay on top of it. So it really depends on our personalities and how we function best. For me, I found that, for example, just having one bin where all the hats and gloves go is a little bit easier than having a lot of little bins that have, one for gloves, one for scarves, one for hats. It's one thing that made our days smoother, like taking all of those items when we come back home, putting them in the bin where they belong. And it's also easier for my family to be able to do that too. So it's really important to keep in mind that sometimes you can micro-organize a bit too much. So I'm a big believer in finding a spot for your things. Make sure you give them a basket, a bin, an area in your home where they belong. But when we try to organize too much, it can be really time consuming and it can also be really ineffective in keeping up with that system. Don't nest things. I used to do this, like nest a lot of containers within each other, especially when it comes to things like food containers, the Tupperware, glasses, mugs. I found that it's actually a lot more effective to store them stacked up, so all of them with a lid on. And that means when I go to reach out for a food container, I can easily grab one. I don't have to take them all out to find the one in the middle, then find its matching lid, then make sure I put them all back together in the little nesting system. It sounds like a good idea. It sounds like it's going to save space, but I find even with lids on, as long as you have a decent amount of containers and not a lot of excess you don't use, it doesn't really take up that much space, and it makes our days run a bit smoother. And the same with things like glasses and cups. Instead of nesting a lot of mugs or stacking them into each other, I prefer to have some tiered systems in our cupboard so that they are all on their own level, and it's really easy to grab a mug here and there when we need one. Open storage versus closed storage. I do think there's a place for open storage because it can be nice to display things on a shelf when you really enjoy them. Maybe it's books, maybe it's things you just enjoy looking at. We do have some shelves in our home, but if you are struggling with visual clutter and you're struggling to keep things looking tidy, having closed storage can help a ton. And we've opted for closed storage in a lot of different areas in our home because I just find it easier to keep on top of, less dusting to do because open shelves can get a lot of dust on them. And it also makes things look neater. For example, when the kids' books and the kids' toys are behind closed doors, or when we have all of our tech cables, printer, and everything like that in our under TV unit, and they're all behind closed doors. It just makes the space look more airy and tidy without having to try too much. If you already have a lot of shelves and it's nothing you can change, like for example, if you're in a rental, then one thing you can do, and something I've done in the past too, is to put a basket on it to keep all of the items together. And I still use this sometimes in our Billy bookcase shelves, for example. Some of the like random little items, I don't want them spread all over the shelves, so I just put them in one basket, and it just makes things more organized and look a bit neater too. And speaking of this, create drawers where you don't have them. I find that drawers are some of the best organizing systems because they're easily accessible and they come out so you can see exactly what's in the drawer. Whereas when you have a cupboard, it's really hard to see what's in the back. It's hard to access it if there's a lot of things in front of it. And so putting a little container in there, or a storage bin, a little basket, a tray that you can pull out, it can be really helpful. I use this, for example, for our bread. I use these in the cupboard where we have snacks. I use bins a lot. Bins, baskets, whatever you have on hand, it can really change your organizing ways. Nothing stashed in the back. I really hate having things stashed in the back of cupboards, drawers, wardrobes, any piles that I can't reach behind. That used to stress me out so much. And it also made me lose a lot of items. Like I couldn't find them. I would be looking for my kids' watercolor paints. I couldn't find them, so I bought them another one. And then a few months later, I realized, oh, it was in the back of the drawer. It just fell behind and I couldn't find it because there was a lot of clutter in front of it. And this is again where using bins and things that you can pull out can be really helpful. And also clearing your stuff. So clearing the stuff you don't really need, clearing the stuff that's in the back that you can't reach anyway. Those are the kinds of items that can easily go. Think of your daily use items. And this is where I like to use my 5-7 rule. So it's just kind of a little guideline I have for myself that in my kitchen, for example, on the counters, on the surface areas, the items that I have out need to be items that we use 5 out of 7 days of the week. So almost every single day. If there are things we don't use every single day or almost every day, then they can be put in a cupboard. So for me, I have out things like our toaster, kettle, coffee machine, but most of the items are in my kitchen cupboards. And having a clear surface helps a lot because it's a lot easier to clean. So every single day we need to wipe those kitchen surfaces, don't we? We have spills, and cleaning them is so much quicker, so much more effortless when you have less items out on the counters. And it also gives you a lot more workspace when you're cooking. Group things together in a basket or a tray or whatever container you might have. Sometimes when things look a little bit messy, it can be really helpful to contain them in one spot. So it can be a basket that's kind of like hiding them out of sight, or it can be like a little tray that displays your items beautifully, but it still keeps them kind of together. It's a little bit more visually appealing, and it also helps you keep things a bit more organized. I really like to create drop zones as well. So when I look around my home, when I first started kind of really intentionally organizing, I looked at the areas where we would drop things. So where do we usually drop our laundry? Maybe I can put the laundry basket there so that it can all go in that spot. Where do we usually drop our keys, wallet, sunglasses, anything we come in with? I've put a little napkin holder, little tray from IKEA in the entryway so that all of those items can go in there. Where do we usually drop our shoes? Obviously next to the entryway. So we have a shoe cupboard in the hallway that's next to our front entrance. And then we have a little basket next to our back entrance as well, where we put the garden shoes and things like that. So really having a look at where things are getting dropped and see if you can create a little spot for them, whether it's a basket, whether it's a little piece of furniture, depending on your needs. That can make your home look so much more organized. Start small and work in layers. It can be so tempting to think, oh, I will get this one weekend a few months from now And that's when I'm going to tackle all of like my entire home. I'm gonna tackle all my clutter, I'm gonna organize everything, make it perfect. The problem with that is that it's not very sustainable, and that time very often just never comes. So for me, I found that working in really small batches worked best. So 10, 15 minutes at a time, tackling a drawer here and there. And even if I don't finish that drawer in those 15 minutes, I can just work in layers. So today I'll do a declutter and get rid of as much stuff as I need to. And if my 15 minutes are up and I have to go get my kids from school, then I'll just leave it. And another day when I have a bit more time, I will come back to it and look at it with fresh eyes. And sometimes it can be really good to have this change of perspective, because then you can see, oh, actually, I don't use that either, so I can get rid of this extra item. Or I can come back and just organize it a bit better. Putting less pressure on ourselves to do this massive declutter, I have found to be so helpful, and I know a lot of other people have too. I do hope this was helpful. If you're trying to get your home in a more organized state, let me know what you're struggling with right now. I would love to help you out as much as I can. Yeah, I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will see you soon.